Welcome to my project.
Hi, I'm Joey Troxel from DIY's Project Guys, and today on the show we're going to show you how to make this really cool spice rack combination paper towel holder for the pantry. Not only does this thing hold the regular spices, but it also holds the bigger spices from Costco. Plus, it gives me a place to put all of my paper towels from the big Costco bags where I can just open them up and lay them all out in my pantry rather than having a big bag on the floor in the pantry and just pulling one out whenever I need it. It's got my space much more organized. It just takes some simple tools that everyone has at home, and I did this in a weekend, and so can you. All right, let's get to work.
Okay, to start off with, here's some of the materials I used. I had 4 1x3 8-foot each, 1 1x4 6-foot, 1 1x3 12-foot, 2 3-inch corner braces, they come in 2-packs, 1 4-inch mounting brace, they come in 4-packs, and 2 4-inch flat corner braces, they come in a 2-pack. Let's get to work. Here are some of the braces I'm using. I've got corner braces, I've got angle brackets, and then I've got some other angle brackets. These corner braces are going to be for inside the corners of the structure on the left side and the top, and then the top and the right side, and the right side and the bottom and the left side. Here we've got some braces to hold the shelves together when they go on top of the whole spice rack, and I'll show you how that works. And then over here, I'm using these L brackets just to be able to mount the thing to the wall when it's done. And again, I'll show you where I'm using that too. I'm starting out with my 1x3s. I'm going to cut enough of them to give me 7 shelves. It'll be the top and the 6 shelves under it. So 7 pieces of wood, and I'm going to make them 31 and a quarter inches. I want the whole thing to be 33 inches, so I have to minus the thickness of the wood. So I need 7 of these at 31 and a quarter inches. And then I also need the 2 left and right sides, and those are at 60 inches. So I need 2 at 60 inches. And that gives me everything except for the bottom shelf. Then I'm cutting the 1 wood for the bottom shelf. It's going to be 31 and a quarter inches. And this shelf is going to be a little thicker. It's the 1x4 I'm cutting here because some of those spices are thicker, especially the ones from Costco. And here you can see all my wood is cut and ready to go. It's time to build this thing. Now I've got my table set up because I do not work on the floor. I've got my upright to my left and right side ready to go, and I'm just kind of putting all these pieces in place. You can see here I'm putting the bottom shelf in. That's actually wider than the other pieces of wood. So there's a little lip on the front, so you can tell that's the bottom right there. That's the one piece that's different. And I'm just using my nail gun, and I'm nailing this right in. I'm using my speed square just to make sure that I've got all this lined up and it's ready to go and I'm not off. And then I'm just going to go around and put all this together piece by piece. And working on the table like this, this is the way you got to do it. Now all of the shelves in the top are the 1x3s, and they're all the same size. So I just kind of have to measure where I want these to go. I've got some spice bottles laying around so I can get an idea of, the tallest one and how much space that needs. And I'm just making up these measurements as I go along. I figured this out already, how I figured 10 inches between each one, but you can do yours however you need it. That's how you'll decide how many shelves you need. And then here I am, we're just putting, and you can see here we're using the glue also. We did glue all of the joints also because I wanted it to stay together and not have any issues. We're just going around and stapling it. And now we're putting the shelves in place. We're just measuring between each shelf and we're putting the nails through it just to make sure they're correct. Here, I only put 1 nail in the center of each shelf. Then I took the level and I rotated the shelf with the 1 nail in it back and forth until it was level. And then I put the other 2 nails in. It just made it easier that way to make sure that it was in and then I could level it as it was standing. So right here you can see it's kind of all coming together really nicely. And we're just going around now and doing our 3rd nail into each one. The staple gun made really quick work of all of this. It was really nice. All right, there you go. Now it's time to lay this thing down. And we're going to put in our corner braces. And these are how these braces work. You just lay something flat under it and you stick the brace down and you're going to make holes where those holes are. And you're just going to do a little drill pilot hole and screw the screws in. And that'll kind of give it more support to hold it together because it really is just a big rectangle. So that's what we're doing here. We're drilling little pilot holes so the screw doesn't split the wood because after all this, I don't want the wood to split. And now I've got my screws and I'm kind of using my hand just to kind of get them into the wood so they get started a little bit. And then I'm going to take my DeWalt cordless screwdriver and get that thing going I love this tool. It really makes quick work of this stuff. And I'm just going to go around and do this to all the corners, all 4 of them. And you can see here, it's all together, and I just painted it. And I also put some lattice on the front, just some cheap lattice, just to keep the spices from falling off. So it's all assembled. The lattice is kind of like a guard, and this thing is ready to mount on the wall. Here you can see I'm painting the bigger pieces of wood, the ones for the shelves, on top. And I'm going to put those on top of this thing. And this thing's going to line up with the door molding. And it's going to right across. And I'll staple it down or nail gun it down. And this will give me a place to put my my paper towels. Here's the paint I'm using. It's just a high gloss Glidden Premium. It's a small little can. I got it at Home Depot. It was not expensive. And I'm really just rollering these boards. I'm just making it easy on myself. No one's ever going to see them. I just have to make sure the bottom is coated and the front. You really don't have to coat the top. It's going to be so high up, no one's going to see it. And I'll show you how all this comes together. It's hard to imagine now, but I had this vision of where these paper towels would go, and this is what I did. So here's a trick for you. Between coats, I just take this whole paint tray with the roller and I stick it in a really big Ziploc bag. You can see I've already used this one before because I hate to use them once and throw them out. I'm just going to Ziploc it, and that'll keep the paintbrush wet without it drying out for me to use, in an hour or 2. And actually, this will stay like this for days if you have a big enough Ziploc bag. So a little pro tip that I've been using for years. Now I'm making my line for the top of the spice cabinet. I want it to be in line with the top of the molding, because when I put the spice cabinet up, I'm going to put that shelf on top of it, and that shelf is going to nail into the molding on the other side of the wall there, where my right hand is, so it has something to support it over that. So it all has to, the top of this spice cabinet has to line up with the top of that molding for the door that's right there. And you can see my line right there. That's where the top of my spice rack is going to go. And I've made some measurements on where this thing needs to stop and all that, and where the door opens up for the garage. I've kind of measured all that out. Now I'm measuring how long the shelf is, and I'm starting at my line, and I'm measuring how far down this thing's going to go, because I'm going to need to put a support ledger down there to hold this thing up. So I'm just going around and taking some measurements to figure out where the ledger needs to go. And a ledger is just a board that the whole thing sits on. So here you can see I'm making my marks for my ledger. The ledger will go into beams, and then the spice rack will just sit on the ledger. It'll help it stay in place. I won't have to worry about if it's screwed into a beam or not. So here I am putting this ledger on. This is a horrible piece of wood. I probably should pick something better, but it's going to be under the spice cabinet. And really, I can come back and paint it later on. This is just what I had handy, and I didn't feel like cutting anything else, so here it is. This will give a solid board for the spice rack to sit on, and it'll give it plenty of stability. I've marked the beam, so I'm just pre-drilling the holes here in the wood so the wood doesn't split when I screw it in, and then I'll screw it right into the beams. Now I'm just using my level to make sure that when I screw this into the beam, it's right where I want it to be. I don't want a crooked cabinet. Now I'm going to use my cordless screwdriver here and get that thing into the wall. And I'm going to go over to the second beam, the one on the left, and I'm going to make sure it's level, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. Since this board is hitting 2 beams, it will support the entire weight of the spice rack. This is really the best way to do it. If I had just put 2 L brackets on and hung it on the wall, the weight of this thing will pull it right out of the wall. And here I'm just using 3-inch brass wood screws to hold this board in. Now I'm going to take my spice rack here, sit it on the ledger board, and make sure it lines up right where I want it to line up over there. Or if I have to make any changes, I can unscrew the board and raise it up a little bit or whatever. So I'm going to make sure that it meets right where my line is, and it does. So now I'm just going to use those corner brackets I have, and I'm going to screw right into the drywall. I did put some anchors in first, and this will secure it to the wall. I'm not looking for those screws to support the weight of it. I just wanted to keep it against the wall. So that's what I'm doing, and going around to all 4 of those corner brackets and screwing through the holes, which I marked with the pencil for anchors. And here you can see I'm just kind of testing my board's going to go up there. My shelf is going to go up there. And you see how it's resting on the door frame over there? That's perfect. It's level, and when I throw my painted shelf up there, it's going to sit on that door frame to the right and sit on top of the spice rack in front of me there. Here we go with the 2 shelves that I'm making. It's going to be an L. It's going to go along the top of the spice rack and then along the molding to the right of the door that was there. So I just have to piece these 2 together. They're both painted and ready to go. And I'm going to use these flat L brackets here to screw into the wood, and that'll keep the 2 pieces together for me. And here you can see I'm just pre-drilling the holes. I've made sure the brackets, each bracket hits both pieces of wood, and then I'm pre-drilling the holes so when I screw the brackets in, I don't split the wood because I've come too far to have problems with split wood. And that's all I'm doing. I'm using a really thin pilot hole drill bit here, and I'm just going along and I'm making a spot to screw in, and notice each board has 4 screws in it to hold it together. Now that I've pre-drilled the holes, I'm just using my cordless screwdriver to put the screws in. The screws came in the package with the bracket, so I didn't have to purchase anything. And I'm making sure to get all 8 screws here so this thing's secure and locked and loaded. Next, I'm going to give this spice rack some added support by putting in these L brackets. I'm just going to find my beams first, and I've got this really cool stud finder. There's a link below on how you can get yours. I love this thing. It shows me the outer edge on each side and the middle of the beam. So I get the direct center of the beam every time I'm marking for a beam. And I'm just going to put these brackets right up against the top of this thing and then down along the back. And I'll show you here in a minute. I'm just marking my holes here for where to drill the pilot holes for the screws. Then I'm just using my drill and I'm starting the screw holes here because, again, I don't want the wood to split. And now I've got my screwdriver and I'm just screwing in the screws. I wasn't able to use the cordless screwdriver here. It just didn't fit in that space. So unfortunately, I do this one by hand. At least going up. Going into the wall, I'll be able to use it. And then here I'm just doing the other side also. I'm making my marks, same thing. I'm just going to pre-drill the holes here, same exact thing, and screw them in. Here you can get a better look at these L brackets. That's what I'm doing right there. I'm just screwing 2 screws into the top, and then I'm going to screw 2 screws into the back of it, and that's it. And since we're on the beam, I don't need to worry about anchors. This thing's in place. I just have to finish these screws. It's looking real good. And now I'm just using my cordless screwdriver to screw the back screws in, and this thing is ready to go. My creation to hold all of my spices. Notice in the bottom, right, that one shelf sticks out a little while all the other ones are flat. And I did put that lattice on the front. You can see that. It stops the spices falling off. Now we're just putting the shelf on. We've got that L shelf we made, and we're just sitting it right on top of the rack. Remember, we measured to make sure that the rack and that door molding were level. And we're just going to take the nail gun and nail this thing right into the top of the rack and right into the door molding. And that'll give us, I know it's hard to understand why we're doing this, but we buy those bags of paper towels from Costco, right, that hold like 16 paper towels. And where do you put those things? So that's dead space up there. We're just going to store our paper towels right up there. So this is kind of a combination spice rack, paper towel shelf. All right, it's time to stack this thing with spices. Now the real work begins.
All right, what did you think? Pretty simple, huh? All right, hit that like button, show us some love. Please subscribe, click on the bell to get notified every time we have a new video, and leave a comment below. Is this something you think you can do? Would this really organize your space? Let me know, I'd love to hear it. All right, until next time, if you want something done right, do it yourself.